All right, guys, so for those of you who are gone, 7 of you, let's just fill this out real quick. So remember, this chapter is about right triangles, how to find missing sides and angles. If you have 2 out of 3 sides, you want to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We're not going to fill all this out. If you're given one side and 30, 60, 90, or 45, 45, 90, you use those songs, 45, 45, 90, hypotenuse equals leg root 2, and all that business. And if you have one side at a different angle, you want to use so, ka, toa. So, ka, toa. So last time we focused on toa. Remember, toa stands for, the T stands for tangent. Today we're going to focus on sine, which is so, and cosine, which is toa. So the only thing you really need to know for today, the sine ratio, right? The so, right? Sine of the angle equals, right? O over H. So opposite over hypotenuse. On the other side, cosine, cosine of angle equals A adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So let's take this information and use it. So let's find the value of each trigonometric ratio. So sine z, so we start right here. Remember sine, so sine means opposite over hypotenuse. So we have to figure out where is our opposite. Our opposite, go right across, that's our opposite right there. And our hypotenuse is right here. So sine of z equals opposite 24 over hypotenuse, which is 40. 24 over 40. And if we want to divide these both by 8, you can do that. It's going to give you 3 over 5. 3/5, or if you punch that in your calculator or just do the division, you get 0.6, right, 6/10. So sine of z equals 3/5, or 6/10. Excuse me. Excuse me. Number 6, cosine of c. So cosine, remember we use ca, c, cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So we don't want to use this. That's the opposite. We don't want to use that. We want to use the adjacent, this guy right here. He's right next to the c. So cosine of c equals the adjacent, 32, over the hypotenuse, which is 40. So that is the ratio. If you divide them both by 8 again, we're going to get 4 over 5, which is 0.8. All right, and you can try these two on your own, and you can check in with me or someone else tomorrow. Okay, we're on the back side now. Again, astronomers notice that for a given angle, again guys, sine and cosine is just a ratio. The ratio of O to H, opposite to hypotenuse, which is sine, or the ratio of A to H, that's cosine, it's always the same for a certain angle, no matter the size. No matter the size, it's always the same. So let's go ahead and do some of these. So we start with this 48 here. So we're starting with 48. We have to think about what we have. Well, if we go across here, this is my opposite. This is my opposite side. Right? This is my hypotenuse. And this is my adjacent, right? Adjacent. But we're not using all of them. Look, this guy's 12. We're using him. We're using the hypotenuse. We're using this x right here. See how there's no number or anything here? We're not really using opposites, so we're not going to use him for this one. So we're using A and H. A and H. So if you Actually, you should write it right above here. Just write down SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Which one uses A and H? Which one uses A and H? It's this one. It's CA. We're going to use CA, cosine. Cosine. So we say cosine of 48 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Adjacent, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is 12. Just punch that in our calculator. Cosine of 48. Cosine of 48. Let me punch that in here. 48 cosine, so approximately 6.69. So 0.6. What's that again? 669. So 0.67. I'm going to round that off. Is x over 12. All right, we get x by itself. We multiply both sides by 12. Multiply both sides by 12, and we get our answer. So let me just multiply this by 12. 8.029. We're going to take that 9, it rounds it up, so 8.03. 8.03 for x. Okay, let's take a look at number 11. So here, what do we have? So we have 70 degrees here. Let's label. So all the way across the opposite side, this is the opposite side. This is my hypotenuse, which means that the one next to it right here, that's my adjacent. So let's think here, number 11, which one is not being used? Well, again, we have x, we're using x here, we're using O. This is 12, we're using him, we're using h. Adjacent this time is not, there's nothing here. We're not going to use adjacent. So we're using O and H. O and H. So again, think about which one is that? Is that going to be SO or CA or TOA? Which one uses O and H? It's SO, the sine function. Sine. So sine, not sin, sine of 70 degrees equals opposite, O, over hypotenuse, 12. All right, let's figure out what this is. We'll multiply both sides by 12. And our answer is just going to be sine of 70 times 12. So x equals, multiply it, sine of 70 times 12. So let's just do that. Clear, sine of 70 times 12. So 11.276, so 11.28. 11.28. All right, let's take a look here at number 10. So again here, we're 60 degrees. See, we're not using the opposite. We're not using the opposite. We are using the adjacent. And we are using the hypotenuse. We're using A and H. Again, think about which one uses A and H. That is cosine. So we're going to use cosine. Cosine of 60 equals adjacent A over hypotenuse H. And I don't know why it keeps being 12 here, but if you punch that in your calculator, cosine of 60, actually let's multiply by 12 here, just do it in one step. Over 12, so x equals 12 times cosine of 60. Let's think about what cosine of 60 is. So 60 cosine 0.5. Now that is interesting. 0.5 times 12. 0.5 times 12. So half of 12. Half of 12, or 6. X equals 6. So if you think about it, really, what did we have here? This was actually just a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Hypotenuse equals shorty times 2. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So you could have done this actually without trigonometry. But let's just do one more for our sake here. So 38. Let's think about what we have here. That is the opposite. So it looks like we are using the opposite. He's got a number right here. This is the hypotenuse. Right, we're not using the adjacent. There's no A, there's no adjacent being used here. We're using O and H. O and H. So who is O and H? That is so. Right, we're going to use so. Sine of 38 equals sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite is 16. Hypotenuse is x, so it's flipped here. Your x is underneath. That's okay. Can we multiply by x? And we get x times sine 38 equals 16. So to get x by itself, we'll just divide by sine 38. And we get x equals, let's figure out 16 divided by sine 38. 16 divided by sine 38. 25.99. 25.99 is our answer for this guy. Okay, so don't forget, you have to multiply both sides by x. I mean, it's the same thing as the tangent, guys. All you have to do is think about, are we using O and H? That's sine. Or are you using A and H? That's cosine. Everything else should be the same. You should be able to try the homework. Bye now.